Tubers and Trolls, Chris here with Telesplash Gaming. We're hitting up Comic-Con 2019. You can see the beautiful Seattle skyline behind us. I got Jens, we got Beck, and Nick is holding the camera. We're gonna go hit up Comic-Con, see what we can do, see what kind of cosplaying is going on, and find some nerds to hang out with. Let's do this.
So Comic-Con was held at the Washington State Convention Center in downtown Seattle. So really cool location. Just kind of showing you a little view there from the kind of floor from Comic-Con. And here is the, entrance to Comic-Con. You see Mario standing in front of the sign. It's kind of a big kind of open area. Once you come up escalators and go through security, you're kind of standing around. You can check your map. You can buy some memorabilia. It's basically just a big floor where you can kind of gather, figure out where you want to go, and map out your plan for the day. So we kind of hung out for a second here, kind of took a peek around, and then popped over to a corner to get our day started. And then you can see Ermac, and I'm not sure who that is, having a face-off with a couple of stormtroopers while a passive Jedi in the background is hanging out. So we stood here, and then we started going right into the showroom. And the showroom was just like you'd expect. It was a room with a ton of memorabilia, comics, cards, tabletop games, t-shirts, clothing, jackets. I mean, just about anything you can imagine with pop culture. The only thing it didn't have is there was no booth for video games. And, that wasn't really on the agenda in terms of what I had read, but I kind of hoped there was some kind of video gaming stuff. But there wasn't, which was okay. It was fine, but there was a ton of stuff. So here you can see people already kind of dressed up as we're kind of walking through. And I want to apologize if it's a little bit shaky with the footage. I'm carrying a camera around, bumping into people, trying my best. I don't have a gimbal or anything yet, but definitely trying to do my best not to get too crazy. But anyway, I wanted to show you guys the floors, and there was just a ton of people, a ton of memorabilia, and just a bunch of vendors. I mean, this is definitely a place where vendors are probably making a lot of their money at these huge shows. I can only imagine what the cost is, but here you can see just a bunch of stuff, and then the left there you see some lightsabers, which I'm slowly making my way over to. I was drawn to them by the Force. It was pulling me to the lightsabers, and you can see over to the left, once I pop into the lightsabers, they are like $75 to $200. I don't even know if that's the minimum cost or what that is. I know there's a raffle as well, but my son really wanted a lightsaber, but he would also be the one beating his sister and the dog with it, and then I'd have a broken lightsaber and I'd be out $200. So we pretty much passed on the lightsaber this time. But I did stop and take a look at some people that were a little more serious about buying them than myself, and you can tell this is a custom lightsaber. I mean, you're literally buying a nice metal hilt. You get the stand with it. This is a perfect item for if you're cosplaying. But for me, I just didn't want to spend that much money on a lightsaber because I just had a feeling my son would break it. And for me, I do just fine like this guy with his Kylo Ren knockoff in the back of his backpack for a while. But a really cool idea. I mean, it's awesome to have a sweet custom lightsaber made just for you in your costume if that's what you wanted to do. Here you can see kind of some gritty style bobbleheads. I don't know what the company is, but they're a little more gritty than your typical bobbleheads that are kind of fun and quirky, and I guess you could say like more comic. These are like a darker tone of those. So these are kind of cool little booth. And then you can see just a bunch of different Cartoon Network logos, FIFA, Coca-Cola, Xbox, a bunch of t-shirts, Nintendo, I mean just everything over here. They even have some really cool jackets called Luca jackets that were kind of around the corner that I was checking out. But again, kind of expensive, really cool, really neat, but wasn't for me. As expected, lots of artwork at Comic-Con, which we'll pop into that as well. And a bunch of toys. So you can see like what's in the box. Lots of those prize boxes, kind of mystery boxes where you have no idea what you're going to get. There's quite a few booths with those. And then over to the right, as I pan over, you will see that there is a Q&A going on for, I believe, Sci-Fi. And, they're basically filming an episode of one of their Q&As. So I was able to kind of sit here for a second, just zoom in, kind of show you what's going on. But Sci-Fi Wire. So they were just doing their kind of little talk show on the stage there. And this is one of my favorite pictures. My buddy Nick is sitting there chilling with Michael Myers, Ash Ketchum, and it looks like maybe a Harley Quinn. So he might have been the stalker in that scenario. Monty Python, the Holy Grail fans will recognize this coconut salesman, I believe, or coconut smasher. And then everybody recognizes good old Pyramid Head from Silent Hill 2. What an awesome freaking costume. I was like, dude, this guy spent some time. That was an amazing costume. One of the best ones I saw the entire day for sure. Just Pyramid Head in all of his glory. If you didn't know, Funko Pop, the bobbleheads and the Funkos are actually based out of Snohomish, Washington. So, as you'd expect, huge following up here in a massive booth. What was more interesting, though, was that there were so many other booths selling Funko Pops. There was a ton of them all over the place, and there were quite a few that were actually specific to Emerald City Comic Con. They were limited to that. And can't go to Comic Con without buying some comics. So you see my son here and Beck checking out the comics. Did pick up a couple, so my son got his first Flash comic there, so he was pretty excited. And you see Styling Online. I bought a couple t-shirts that I will be wearing for some of my videos. And just kind of browsing around. Again, part of the showroom, just a little bit of everything out here. Could be a little overwhelming if you don't really have a plan, don't really know what you're doing. And then we went over to a little rest area up a couple escalators, and they had a Wonder Woman and then a Batman and Flash like green screen where you take pictures. But the best part was the Star Wars showroom. I absolutely love Star Wars, and the showroom was one of my favorites and highlights of the entire day. So you start off, in this corner here, you got good old Boba Fett, and you got Princess Leia hanging out there, and you got Han Solo chilling in all his glory, sitting there in his cryogenic frozen state. And then you can get a picture with a Jedi if you want. They can hook you up with some props, and they got little kind of a camera set up so they can hook you up with a pretty cool effects. And then over here they got some kind of inversions of the Imperial probe droid, and then I think a Tauntaun here. So it's called Tauntaun, I forget, but anyway, this is really cool, kind of life size. So you can see Beck and my son Jen's here getting some really cool pictures. They were all into it. It was really neat just seeing it, and this guy was trying to feed him some BS or something. I don't know what he was feeding him, but he was into it. It was pretty entertaining. It was fun, and the best part about it, everybody was in such a good mood. Everybody had a blast there. Like, when you're around a bunch of nerds, you guys are just all in the same element, so that made it really awesome. Here you can see they had a Wampa hanging upside down, which was cool, kind of reenacting the Empire Strikes Back opening scene with the lightsaber hanging and the Wampa just chilling there, so that was pretty neat. Then they had one of the funnier scenes from the latest Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi, which I hate that movie, so I didn't spend much time at this booth, but they had a pretty good setup there. And then you also had a spot where you could get a Nerf gun and shoot a stormtrooper for $1. So my son has every single one of those Nerf guns. He has been collecting Nerf guns like trading cards for the last couple of years. So we didn't spend a lot of time shooting stormtroopers because why pay $1 when your son can just shoot you every day for free? And that was kind of our motto. So we took some pictures here, really cool. This vehicle made famous by good old Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker in A New Hope. So got a picture with them here, just chilling. Had to get a picture with the old Jawa. Pretty cool setup with the Jawa and the Stormtrooper, and I mean, just really, really neat. I love the vehicle. And then my favorite, the Sith Lords. There was an Ewok and there was Yoda, but for the most part, these are Sith Lords, bounty hunters. So some of my favorite characters with Darth Maul and Darth Vader, and I've always loved the bad guys. They're always the most intriguing. Even though I love Luke Skywalker, I really love the Sith. They've got some pretty cool characters there. So this is pretty cool how they had them all set up. Really cool armor, and yeah, I'm digging the Kylo Ren. I really want to take that and add that to my repertoire of costumes. So, speaking of video games, this is the only part of the whole place that had video games. My friends at Games hooked up this community here with their Games Vanguard systems, and then Microsoft also with their Xboxes. So you can see they had some tournaments going on. They had some, Toe Jam and Earl, some RBI baseball, it looks like. So Microsoft and Games hooked up to create a really neat little section there. And then there was some free-to-play arcades and pinball machines. But that's it. That was the entire gaming section for Comic-Con that I saw. Maybe I missed it, but that was it. So a little disappointing that that was the entire section of Comic-Con gaming for video games. Then here, this was kind of funny. I kind of peeked my head in for a second, and I couldn't figure out what these guys were doing at first, and then I realized they were doing a form of yoga with somebody talking. So basically, you are listening to what the speaker is saying, and then you are doing yoga and reenacting or acting out what he's saying. So, I don't know, we had a lot of fun. The kids absolutely loved this, and I'm definitely a nerd, but I'm not sure I was quite ready for that level of nerd-gasm yet. Here you can see a couple Deadpools hanging out with, I don't know who this chick was or what she was dressed up as, but she had a pretty good crowd around her, so I didn't spend too much time there. And then back here, I don't know what these three were doing, but pretty cool outfits, so, that's cool. And then kind of finish off our day at Comic-Con, I paid for my son to get his you know, character drawn, and I sped it up so you could see it. So he wanted to be on a dinosaur, and so I had him drawn on top of a dinosaur. So you see it sped up at a little over 10 speed, while this guy just cruised right through and did a really good job. And we actually had him color it as well, but I didn't put that on here. Just kind of showed the black and white, and that was it. So on our way out, I wanted to make sure I had the thank you for joining us. So that was cool. And that's it for Telesplash Gaming, guys. So thanks for spending a few minutes with me. I know it's a little different than normal. We'll be back with some gaming videos soon. Take it easy.